Welcome back to another Bali COVID-19 update, and this is March 27th, and my name is Bruce. And what's the weather like today? Let's take a look at the wind speed first, and it is 14.1 kilometers per hour. The temperature 30.9 degrees Celsius, and the humidity 73%. It is an overcast day. The good news is it didn't rain last night. Wow. And so things are starting to dry out here. Good news. So since the last video, the no quarantine in Indonesia has been made official, and that's SE number 15, and here is a shot of it. And I'm going to talk about that as the lead story. Last time, right, it wasn't official, and so it's official now. But as with a lot of stuff here, there is some confusion, and mostly about just one part of it, and I'm going to get to that just at the end of the lead story. I'm going to tack on a little section about the SE and my interpretation of it, and it's my interpretation of it. Not everybody agrees with it. So that being said, let's just get on with the numbers. And the numbers are good again. National new cases, 4,189. Yes, the other day it was in 7,000s. National recoveries, 10,943. And national deaths, down to 107. Still 107 too many, but this is a big drop and good news. And what about Bali? And yes, we are going down, down, down again too. Down to 46 now, 46 new cases, recovery 68, and deaths 3. And so the numbers are looking good as we're getting into the Ramadan season, and there are a bunch of segments about Ramadan. Okay, this was going to be the lead story the other day, and as I said in the last video, I didn't because there was no SE out on it. The SE came out the other day, and of course, there is tons of confusion about this as usual. So I'm going to go over the story in the press, and then later I will talk about what is in the SE and what I read it as my interpretation, and waiting to see if there's going to be any more clarifications on this, and hopefully there will be before Sunday. This is Friday that I'm doing this. Indonesia drops quarantine requirement for international travelers. So the decision to end 2 years of Indonesia's border closure and put the country in the same position as its neighbors, Thailand and Malaysia. Under the new rule, international travelers are only required to take the PCR test upon entry. So that second test, well, it's actually the third test because you have to take one before you leave, then you have to take one when you get here, and then you had to take one on the third day of the non-quarantine, and that is out. No more of that, and so that is a big plus for everybody. According to Pak Sandiaga Uno, we are currently preparing a single understanding and narrative about transitioning to the post-pandemic new economic order. If we get a single understanding in narrative, that would be so wonderful. If there was just something put together to deal with the VOA, visa issues, the quarantine, what's happening, and there's going to be some changes in terms of money, the fees for visas starting around April 15th, and something may be happening on April 1st, which is not that far away. So there's a lot up in the air as usual. And so if you want to keep track of this, watch this channel, because I do spend a lot of time, and I appreciate people that have recognized that. I do spend a lot of time going over all this stuff and trying to make sense of it, because it's constantly changing, or as one subscriber said the other day, it's like Jell-O. It is. It just goes this way and that way. It's like my ZVE-10 Sony camera when I try to film something when I'm walking around without a stabilizer. It's like Jell-O. It's like all over. So keep tuned every Wednesday and Sunday, and I will try to give you the facts and separate them from my opinions and my guesses. So that's a long way of saying it would be so nice to see a single understanding and narrative from the government about what is happening, and have it not change every 2 weeks. So the government is going to carry out this transition as the country enters into Ramadan month. And then at the end of that, there's Al-Fitr and Mudik, right? The mass movement of people from where they're living to their home. And so, wow, this is a lot of stuff is going on. A lot of stuff. Tourists are coming in, new planes are coming in. Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr. Pusing. Okay, and so Pak Sandiaga says, if all goes well, we can expand people's economic activities. Okay, and thank you for any clarification you can give us, Pak Minister. All right, so there was the story in the press, and I went through and translated all of this, and I've looked at other translations, and mine is the same as the rest of them. There is one key point that everybody disagrees with, and I'll get to that. First, if you are a VOA or a B211, you need to be fully vaccinated. You need to arrive with a negative PCR test 48 hours before departure, and you take a PCR test on arrival. How much does it cost? 275,000 rupees. You can get insurance to go with that here. And the test results, well, the news from social media, our test results are coming back quick, 2.5, 3 hours. And so that's good news. And according to a couple of people that I saw comment on this, they got it through their email, not through their phones. So you want to check your spam box just to make sure that it didn't get stuck in spam, which, well, it probably did. So you come in and you get the PCR test. After that, you go to immigration, you get your documents checked, you go to customs, and you're going to have to wait for the results of your test. Now, it says that you have to wait at your hotel. It does not say a CHSE hotel in this document. It does say that you have to be at a CHSE hotel if you test positive and you're going to be quarantined. It does not say this, but some people are reporting that you have to be at a CHSE hotel, and this is the argument. I checked on one of the sites, Pak Oki, a Balinese guy, and he's in the travel business, but he agrees that you don't have to go to a CHSE hotel. And so there is that side of the argument, and then there's the other side that yes, you do. Now, reports on social media are that people are being asked to see a hotel accommodation that is CHSE. Some people have said that they haven't been asked if it's CHSE. So, who is interpreting it, how they're interpreting it, this is still up in the air. And we'll get back to this in a minute. If you come in on a Kitas or a Kitop, and you only have one dose or you're unvaccinated, you have to go quarantine for 5 times 24 hours and be vaccinated on completion of the quarantine. If you have special health problems or comorbidities and you can't take the test, you have to have an official letter from a government hospital certifying that you cannot take it. It cannot be just from your general practitioner. And of course, the big news is that there is no third test. There's no test on the third day like there was before. This is huge. It's huge because a lot of people are complaining about it, and it's inconvenient, and I agree, and it's an extra expense, I agree too, and so that is gone now. So basically, what do we have here? You come in, let's say you're fully vaccinated, you come in, you get a visa on arrival, you have a B211, and you get the test, and you have to wait for the test before you can go anywhere. You're not supposed to go out and do anything. So according to my interpretation, you can go to any hotel, but I've already dealt with that. What would I do? This is my opinion. I like stress-free travel as much as possible. It seems that there are 2 interpretations to this, and people have been waiting for the Balinese government to come out and make some clarifications, and as of Sunday at noon, there is no clarification yet that I could find. Some people on social media saying there were. I went to the government sites. I couldn't find any. And so, as usual, lots of people saying a lot of different things. My opinion is that if I was coming in, I would book one night in a CHSE hotel to be safe, so that I could get in and I would not worry. Are they going to ask me for a CHSE hotel? Are they not going to ask me for a CHSE hotel? Are they expensive? You can get CHSE hotels for $15. for a night. But that's my opinion, because I'm a safe, cautious traveler. You can come in and have a booking somewhere else at Airbnb. I don't know, some place that is not CHSE certified. And if they ask you for something, and you say, I have this, and they say it's not CHSE certified, you probably can just go and book one right there while you're there. I'm sure they'd be happy to help you. So that's my take on SE15. The big good news from there is that the third PCR test is gone, and Indonesia is quarantine-free at this point. Questions? Leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to try to answer them. There may be an update from the Balinese government on this later today or tomorrow, and if there is, I will put a special video up addressing that. Okay, let's go on to other stories. And how are we doing on boosters in Indonesia? Booster vaccine recipients in Jakarta still underwhelming. The Indonesian government has officially made vaccine booster shots as one of the main requirements for Mudik, right? Okay, this is all tied in together, and we're going to talk about Mudik in just a minute. So Indonesia's booster vaccination is still considered quite low. For reference, the capital city of Jakarta that logged over 100% for the first and second dose vaccine recipients has only administered 2,055,460 booster shots. Data received from the Jakarta Health Agency on March 23rd shows that the first dose vaccinations have been received by 12,452,352 people, or 123.5%. That consists of 70% of those with the Jakarta ID card, the KTP, and 29.8% of non-Jakarta ID card holders. The second dose administered to 10,524,130 people, or 104.4% of the total. I love how they use these numbers way over 100%, right? Because, well, what are they comparing it to? And they're comparing it to this 70% still, not the total population. Okay, and so we talked about low boosters. What about face masks? COVID-19 task force face mask non-compliance numbers still high in East Java. So COVID-19 task force government spokesperson Pak Wiku, who we talked about many times, said in a press conference this week that East Java has become the province with the most number of villages and sub-districts where residents are least compliant with the national face mask protocol. I wonder how they figure this out. Coming in second is Aceh, followed by Central Java, West Java, and Riau. Okay, and I wonder where we are on that list. Based on the report that Pak Wiku obtained, currently there are 29%, or 1,811 villages or sub-districts with low compliance with the face mask health protocol. He believes Indonesia should learn from several countries with a high level of booster vaccination, but are not disciplined in applying the health protocols. These countries, he said, namely Italy, Germany, Britain, Vietnam, and Thailand, which he said have recorded an increase in reinfection cases. And so he concluded, let's fasten those masks again, wash our hands regularly, avoid crowds, and keep our distances. Ain't happening in Indonesia. Okay, he said, don't let it give way for more infections that could potentially cause cases to rise again. And we don't want that to happen because we don't want to roll back the opening. Tourists are coming in. Take a look at some of these videos. Here's another one from the monkeys, and then, of course, we've got my friend Pat Bobo, and here's one of his. And so they're out in the streets, they're showing people coming in, and well, everybody's in a good mood. Even me, even with this rain, and it's gonna rain, well, within 20 minutes max. That's why I'm filming inside today. And here's something that shows, I guess, that we're working our way towards the endemic stage. Jakarta deputy on Justin Bieber's concert at GBK. We're heading to endemic. Okay, so whatever his name is, Bieber or whatever, I admit I'm not a fan of his. I have to ask my kids if they are. He's apparently coming to Indonesia. And so the Jakarta provincial government supports Justin Bieber's music concert at Gelora Bung Karno in November. The deputy governor of Jakarta claims that the capital is gradually moving towards an endemic status of COVID-19. Justin Bieber announced that his Justice World Tour concert is slated to be held at the GBK Madya Stadium in Jakarta on November 3rd, 2022. Tickets will be on sale starting at 10 a.m. Jakarta time, Tuesday, March 29th. Coming up in just a few days if you are a Bieber fan. I keep wanting to say Bieber. Okay, so so good. Okay, we're getting concerts back. Foreigners are coming in. You can tell, I think. I'm pumped. I'm happy. The weather is just, it sucks. This is the 6th day in a row. It's going to rain. My room here is just a mess because I have water coming in from the ceiling. I got all these cracks over the years. You know how sidewalks crack from the sun and the weather and stuff? Well, I've got cracks up in my ceiling. No matter, on the roof, no matter what we do, it doesn't work. We've closed them and water still comes in. And so, well, I have a plan for the dry season to end this, and we'll see what happens. And yeah, follow up on that in the month of August, because that's when we're planning on some big construction stuff. And as I've mentioned, and there's going to be a lot of news about this over the coming 5 or 6 weeks, Ramadan and Al-Fitr, complete requirements for Al-Fitr 2022 homecoming prepared by the government. Now, there are a couple of segments on this today, because this is a major time of the year for Muslims all over the world. President Jokowi will allow people to travel back and forth during the Lebaran, or Al-Fitr, holiday this year. The government also revealed a number of complete conditions for the 2022 homecoming that residents must comply with. But nothing is solid yet, okay, and we'll get to that in a minute. Is anything ever solid here? The president stipulates that conditions for travelers must receive an advanced or booster COVID vaccination and implement strict health protocols. He said, on the condition that there are 2 vaccines and 1 booster and strict procedures are applied. So the way I read this is you're going to have to be fully vaxxed, 2 vaccinations plus the booster. And Minister of Health, Budi Sadikin, said the government would conduct random checks on travelers regarding the COVID-19 status through the PL app. For residents who access public transportation, the inspection process will be carried out before they depart. Now here's something a little confusing for me. Then, for residents who have received the follow-up or the booster, they do not need a COVID-19 test. Okay, they don't need the PCR test, the antigen test. While residents who receive 2 doses of the vaccine are required to have an antigen, and residents who have received just 1 dose are asked to do a PCR. So, what is the booster? The requirement for the booster, and then there's this. So, I'm not quite sure what's happening here. And in another article in a different source, it says that the SE is not out on this. There will be an SE out on this in the next week or 2, hopefully. Let's hope so, because we're getting close there. But SEs come when SEs come, kind of like babies. So Pak Budi said, indeed, for going back to public transportation, it is check when boarding, but going home in a private vehicle, random checking will be carried out later. Okay, so if you're driving your own car or your motorcycle, you may get checked and you may not. And so he said the homecoming is still a long time, around the end of April. It's actually start of May. We will clear the rules. I think it will be released next week at the latest, but at least we have conveyed what the health protocol is. Later we will formalize it in the form of a decree from the Minister of Transportation and the head of BNBP. The Ministry of Transportation noted that the potential number of homecomers in this year's period is going to be close to 80 million. 80 million people are going to be on the move. It is crazy. According to a spokesperson for the Ministry of Transportation, based on the results of a survey From the Balit Bang of the Ministry of Transportation, the potential for people who will go home is close to 80 million if the current domestic travel conditions are applied, namely 2 vaccines and no need for antigen PCR test. Okay, so here he's talking about the current travel restrictions, which are right, exactly that. If you're fully vaxxed, you don't have to take any test. But there's the question about the booster, and this is controversial because there are people that are opposed to using the booster as a requirement for Mudik, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. So the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Transportation, Uno, everybody is saying there'll be some more circulars coming out and we're going to explain everything, and everybody will understand and be clear on the situation. I hope so. And some more on Mudik and the booster. DPR supports booster vaccination as a requirement for Eid homecoming. So the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Bagdasko, supports the plan for further or booster doses of COVID-19 vaccination as a condition for the Eid homecoming this year for Eid Al-Fitr 1443 Hijra. Representative Dasko said the booster COVID-19 vaccination can increase the strength of community's body to fight the spread of COVID-19, which is still in a pandemic status, even though our numbers are going down. He added that the virus is very unpredictable. He said sometimes the escalation goes up, sometimes the escalation goes down. During the Eid homecoming, people will definitely return to their hometowns. I agree that boosters are then made a condition because between vaccines 1 and 2 are already far away. In other words, most people have taken those quite a while ago, and so the booster is supposed to be a booster, right? Boost your immune system. And previously, the Vice President Maruf Amin, said that the government planned to make the booster a requirement for homecoming. He said the booster was able to become a new prerequisite parameter as the government begins to abolish the results of COVID-19 examination as a condition for domestic travel since March 8th. He added, and then also the booster. We will even make the booster a condition later if people want to go home, so there is no need for something like the PCR test or the antigen. And so there has been pushback, and I'm going to talk about one pushback right next in just a second, and another one which I'm not going to go over, which is coming from PAN, the political party, PAN, or PAN, depends on how you want to pronounce it, and they're against this, and they came out guns blazing and said, this is crazy, what are you doing? How can you say this? You've got no basis for this, and you didn't have it for Mandalika, and so why do you have it now for Mudik? And so we're going to find out what's going to happen when the results, the circular, is finally released. Maybe next week, maybe not. Okay, so I've talked about Mudik and the boosters and what's going to happen there. Transportation Organization laments latest Mudik travel requirement. So the Organization of Land Transportation Owners, or GANDA's Secretary General, said on Thursday that he does not see the need for the boosters. He said 2-dose vaccination should be enough. Pak Ateng said the government should impose a similar policy as the one enacted on mall visitors, where vaccinated people are only required to check in with the PL app. He fears that the addition of a booster requirement will curb the number of people traveling to their hometowns. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge in Canggu to sell you. Because people have been coming here for the last 2 years, even though there's been a ban on it. People have been coming, the government has not been able to stop them. And our numbers go way up every year after Mudik. And well, they're probably going to go way up again this year, except this year they'll be able to go. And so all the talk about we're going to monitor them very closely, they can monitor all they want. There are going to be people who are not vaccinated who are going to be moving. And if the booster is required, there's still going to be people going. So Pak Ateng fears that there's going to be this drop. I don't see that happening. People are going to come home. They want to do Mudik, and they've gone through all sorts of contortions. People last year hiring hearses and getting in the hearse to go home, pretending like they're dead, only to be discovered when the hearse has been checked. I mean, that was one of the most ridiculous ones. But people going around and using the back roads to try to get through, roadblocks and things. It's just crazy. And so restrictions, you can put the restrictions on. Is it going to stop people? I don't think so. And more on the booster and Mudik. Epidemiologist backs government's rules on vaccine booster as Mudik travel requirement. And it's been a long time since we've heard from a friend, Australia's Griffith University, Dickie Bootyman. I haven't heard from him in a long time, and he supports the government's rule related to the vaccine booster as one of the requirements for Eid, and you would expect that because he's always taken, since this has started, a very cautious, very conservative approach to handling the pandemic. He said the 2-dose of primary vaccination is insufficient to stop the curve in COVID-19 cases. He emphasized that the 3rd dose of the vaccine is one measure to prevent virus transmission from soaring again in Indonesia after Mudik. In addition, he suggests strict monitoring of health protocols during the homecoming season. He said the health protocols of 5M and 3T should be implemented as an inseparable part of the requirements. And in addition to allowing Mudik to happen this year with the government seal of approval, Pak Jokowi said that Muslims will be allowed to perform mass prayers at mosque as well. And so Pak Jokowi is allowing the Mudik travel, he's allowing the mass prayers. However, activities regarding breaking fast and involve large groups of people are not permitted, especially for state officials and government employees. Restrictions are coming down, but there's still a couple in place. And what about some specific Bali news? Prices skyrocket. Candikuning Tabanan farmers choose broccoli. Okay, I love broccoli. So farmers are growing broccoli now because of the tourist market. The tourist market is going to start up again, and prices for broccoli are going up, unfortunately, because I really like broccoli. And these prices and starting to plant the broccoli has been going on since Bali tourism reopened after the quarantine and VOA policy for foreign tourists, as well as the free of rapid antigen and PCR tests for domestic tourists. So now farmers are starting to grow a number of vegetables that are needed by hotels in the Badung and Denpasar area. Well, and you'd have to include Ubud and Ahmed and other places, even here in Lovina. I'm sure we must have some tourists up here. I need to go and check on that. Haven't been to Lovina in a while. Before the pandemic, we actually planted broccoli and cabbage, but during the pandemic, we were off considering there was no demand from hotels and local markets. But now we've started planting broccoli again after the pulse of Bali tourism and demand by hotels has gone up. According to a farmer up in Candikuning, the price of broccoli per kilogram reaches 20,000 from the previous 5,000, while purple cabbage, I like that too, reaches 30,000 per kilogram. He said he started planting his broccoli and cabbages in March, and that applies to other farmers in the Banjar Dinas Mekardari. And he noted that the process of planting broccoli is easier because broccoli is easier to maintain than chili. He said chili plants are more susceptible to disease, and broccoli is not. He said these vegetables, apart from being absorbed at the hotel, are also marketed to the local market. Even now, there is a demand for vegetable shipments from the Lombok NTB area. So even though our farmers here are growing those, there is still a demand from outside. There appears to be a need for speed in Indonesia, and especially over here in Bali. I have no idea why, but that seems to be what's happening. And so here is another racetrack coming up, built on leased land, Bangli drag race circuit, tender stage next month. Yes, drag racing is coming to Bangli. The construction of a drag racing track is being budgeted at 5.3 billion rupees. This comes straight from the head of a highway division of the PUPR Perkim office of Bangli Regency, EY and Lega Suprapto. He said the plan for the construction of the racetrack circuit has gone through several stages. It starts with making a design involving a consultant, and the design is coordinated with the Indonesian Motor Association so that the design meets standards. Then a feasibility study is carried out to find the reasons for choosing the location, knowing whether the location does not interfere with community activities and the distance from the location to the city of Bangli. And then most importantly, the feasibility study also has to find out whether the local community accepts or rejects the construction of a drag racing track in their area. And he said in relation to this, we've conducted socialization several times involving community leaders in Landi Village, Bangli District, and the community's response is very positive. Especially with the construction of this circuit, the local community's economy will certainly be lifted. Okay, everybody is happy when the economy is going to go up. And where is this going to be? It's going to be on 2 hectares of community land that belongs to a local resident, and it will be leased for 20 years. For the land lease, the Bangli Regency government has prepared a budget of 500 million rupees. So they're going to give this guy 500 million rupees for the 20-year lease on 2 hectares of land. And so where is this 5.3 billion going to go? It's going to be used for construction of the track, for parking, and for a podium. This is the initial stage. The construction of other infrastructure will be carried out in stages. The targets for the construction to be completed by the end of the year. Wow, so they're gonna move through this quickly. So, if you want to see drag racing, legal drag racing in Bali, I guess you'll be able to go to Bangli sometime at the end of the year. And some more on Bali. 16 baby Komodo dragons hatched successfully at Bali Safari Park. So if you've been to Indonesia before, if you've read about Indonesia and you haven't been here, you know that Indonesia has Komodo dragons. And they are one of the largest lizards in the world. And their natural habitat is in East Nusa Tenggara and the islands Komodo, Rinca, Flores, Gilimotang, and Padar. And I've been there before. I was at Komodo many years ago. I took students there on a field trip. And we had some photos taken of us standing right next to these magnificent beasts. And so now we have 16 baby Komodos at the Bali Safari Park. Currently, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, lists the Komodo dragon as a species that is vulnerable to extinction. Why? Well, volcanic activity, earthquakes, habitat destruction, and poaching are thought to be the main reasons for the decline in the Komodo's population. And the Indonesian government lists the Komodo dragon as a protected species. I've never been to Bali Safari Park, but according to this article, Komodo dragons are one of the animals that are cared for and bred for conservation purposes so that they can maintain their sustainability in the wild. Get out. So at the Bali Safari Park, they've succeeded in incubating baby Komodo dragons, and they are the first animal conservation institution in Bali to successfully breed the Komodo. Currently, the conditions of the Komodo dragons are healthy and active. Feeding is done 2 times in 1 week, and the amount that they're fed depends on the weight of, well, they're called pups, the baby ones. It's interesting. So in addition to these 16 newborn dragons, there are some other dragons, so there's a total of 24 Komodo dragons at the Bali Safari Park. I guess if you want to see Komodo dragons, you can see them at the Bali Safari Park. I wasn't aware that they had them there. I'm not even sure where the Bali Safari Park is, but I know my granddaughter and grandson have been there. Okay, that's it. Time for an update and a wrap-up. And just one update, I saw this just this morning. Singapore, the Prime Minister of Singapore has announced that starting March 29th, just a couple of days away, no longer have to wear a mask outdoors. Yes. Why is that important? Well, I think a lot of people are going to be going to Singapore for visa runs, 1. And 2, Indonesia has been playing this very cautious from the start. And they usually seem to wait and see what's happening in other countries, Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, and then they make some changes. And so if they see that this is working in Singapore, maybe they will get rid of the mask requirement too, at least outdoors. I would hope so. I would love to get out on long walks again where I don't have to wear a mask, where I can drive my motorcycle without wearing a mask. Wow, just heaven. And I'm going to talk more about the Singapore situation in the video coming up on Wednesday. Okay, what is the wrap-up? Wrap-up is, as usual, confusion. People say that it's clear, but it's not clear because people disagree with it. And it apparently is being implemented at Nurai in different ways. Some people are being asked for CHSE accommodation. And so, as I said, this is up to you. If this was me, I would be doing a number of things. One, I would check with the airline to make sure what the requirements are before I go to the airport so that I am not going to get a surprise. Okay, two, I would check with the Indonesian consulate in my area or the website, although the websites aren't usually updated very well. You can look at social media as well, the immigration's IG account. And I would see what the latest things are here. You can check here, you can check at Pakoki, you can check with the monkeys, you can check with Bobo. There are a lot of places online that talk about this, but you really want the official word. And so I would be checking with the airlines and the government to see what they are saying, what the word is right at that point. As I said, it's the follow-up to the main story. I would be booking a CHSE hotel because I don't want to be on a plane wondering if they're going to ask me for this or not. But that's just me. As I said, I like to travel stress-free. I want to get into a plane. I want to have a couple of drinks before I go. I want to relax. I want to get into Bali. I want to go through here. And when they ask me for documents, I have them. But that's just me. Oh, you can go by what it says here. It doesn't say you have to be at a CHSE. It just says you have to wait at your hotel or your accommodation. If you found this helpful, useful, informative, non-irritating, amusing, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Updates are every Wednesday and Sunday. And we do a cooking video that's uploaded on Sunday. And there will be a cooking video today on potato fritters. I will probably be putting the cooking video up after this sometime later this evening because I still have some editing to do on it, and we're due to start filming rendang again. This time we're both in a good mood, so we're going to do rendang again, and we are going to have one on jamu as well. And I think that will be a short one. I don't know. My wife hasn't told me. She just said, we're going to do the jamu and we're going to do rendang. And so that's there. Okay, thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today. Stay safe. And I will see you on Wednesday, if not before.